Well, welcome everybody, and welcome to the members of the public that are watching this council meeting of the municipality of the County of Annapolis. It's a Zoom council meeting today because of the pandemic protocols. I will first go through the agenda and start with the roll call. District 1. District 1.
Sorry about that. I was on mute. Bruce Prout.
District 2.
Brian Fuzzy Connell.
District 3 is myself, Alan Parrish. District 4.
Boyd Berto.
District 5.
Lynn Longmire.
District 6.
Alec Morrison.
District 7.
David Hudson.
District 8.
Michael Gunn.
District 9.
Wendy Sheridan.
District 10.
Brad Redden.
And District 11.
Diane LeBlanc.
Good, thank you. So we're all present this morning for this meeting of council. Next, I will go over the approval of the agenda. And as I indicated in a note that I sent to councilors last night, I would like to change the agenda around a little bit. Under late additions, Basin View Insurance, I would like to add that. And I anticipate a general discussion about Basin View issues. And as a result, I would like to move item 5A, Basin View harness work. Item 8A, the letter from Ms. Spur. And 8F, the letter from the YMCA of Southwest Nova Scotia, as well under late additions so that we can discuss all the Basin View issues together under number 10 of the agenda. Would anyone have any difficulty with that?
No.
Are there any other changes or additions to the agenda?
I have a question of the agenda, if I may.
Sure.
Thank you. The summary that I brought in, that I come in, takes up 6-7 pages of our agenda. Well, I don't know who prepared it. I don't know who fact checked it. And I'm kind of wondering why we have it in our agenda. Thank you.
What's that, Deputy Warden?
Oh, it's page 53 running to page 64 of our agenda package. It's a summary about Basin View Center. I don't know who prepared the text. I don't know who fact checked it. So I'm really kind of querying as to why we've got it into our agenda package.
That's the letter from Heather Spur that I referred to.
That's the letter from Heather Spur, is it? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Any other questions with respect to the agenda as amended? If not, I'll ask for someone to move approval of the agenda as amended as I set out. Councillor LeBlanc moves, seconded by Councillor Prout. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Next are the minutes first of the special meeting. I should put this more in front of me. The special meeting of April the 16th, 2021. Would someone like to move with respect to those minutes? The Deputy Warden moves their approval. Second by Councillor Hudson. Is there discussion with respect to those minutes? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next are the minutes from the April 20th regular meeting of council. Is there anyone that would like to make a motion in that regard? Councillor Connell moves, seconded by the Deputy Warden. Any discussion with respect to those minutes? Councillor Redden.
On page 16 of our package, which is page 9 of 12 for the minutes, there seems to be I just don't quite understand what was going on with, it was moved by Councillor Sheridan, seconded by Councillor Longmire. And then down to Councillor, there's 3 paragraphs there in the middle of the page. And I'm wondering if there's a typo there.
Looks like it.
There seems some redundancy, that's all. And that the Second Amendment is the same as the First Amendment.
No, it's not.
No? Okay.
There was a motion made, and then there was an amendment by Sheridan and Longmire to add pending receipt of a geotechnical report. Then there was an amendment to the amendment to read dependent upon the geotechnical report.
And then the second vote is attaching the amended amendment.
Right.
I remember the long-winded conversation we had. I just didn't follow the minutes. Thank you very much.
That's welcome to the path of 2 amendments on a motion.
Are there any other comments on the minutes? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next are the councillor comments. And we'll start with District 1. Councillor Prout.
Thank you. Since our last regular council meeting, our spring cleanup was held in District 1. I know it varied from district to district. And I would wish to extend a huge thank you to our sanitation workers who helped make it such a success. My other comment is deals with COVID-19. As we all know, the numbers have been on the rise here in the Valley, and I would encourage us all to continue to do what we can, do our part fighting the pandemic. As more vaccine becomes possible and available, I think it bodes well for us. We should all be able to get our first or even our second shot. And together we can help to bring the numbers down, I think, in the Western zone and in the province as a whole. It's certainly been a difficult time for businesses, homeschoolers, teachers. It goes on and on. Anything we can do to support our local businesses to help them through this would be very much appreciated, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Prout. Councillor Connell.
Yes, good morning. Lots of calls on the internet still. I tell people that I think our last report was that they were going to start hooking up in June. So I hope that they can start hooking up somewhere. And so I see they've done some work at the Wolf office and got the cable across to that and stuff. So the people are quietly and even though they're aggravated, they're waiting for us to get on the move. I talked to some of the citizens that already been hooked up. They're very pleased with it. They're very pleased with the service they're getting. And other than that, the getting all kinds of communication with the residents on our decision to take our waste back to the Lawrencetown site. They're very pleased on that subject and hope we continue our goals of getting our county back on track, and everyone's looking forward to that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm next as councillor for District Number 3. Things have been fairly quiet in this generally rural district, but I thought I would take the opportunity to review publicly the arrangements that we made last week with respect to our waste collection. I couldn't speak about this when I was giving my warden's report on Tuesday because the final agreements weren't made until Wednesday. And Wednesday is when the press release came out indicating that we had resolved the lawsuits with Valley Waste and the other municipalities. So on Thursday, I gave interviews to the CBC and to Saltwire, which is the Herald, with respect to that. But for the benefit of our residents who might be watching this, there were 2 lawsuits that the county was involved in. One was brought forward against us by Valley Waste with respect mostly to past payments that we hadn't made with respect to the collection of our garbage. And the second one was on behalf of all the other municipalities who were a part of Valley Waste with respect to a various number of issues, including long-term debt and those sorts of things. We had filed counterclaims to those lawsuits. The resolution we reached is that those lawsuits are all dismissed and terminated, including the counterclaims. We are friends again with the other municipalities. We are friends again with Valley Waste. We also entered into a waste management agreement in which we will no longer be sending our waste collection to the West Paradise site. We, the county, will continue to be responsible to pick up the garbage in the county. We will be taking the garbage, all streams of the garbage, to the Lawrencetown transfer station, which is currently owned and operated by Valley Waste. At that point in time, the waste will be divided up into the 3 different streams. And at that point forward, it'll be Valley Waste that will take their garbage and our garbage to the landfill, the recycling spot, and also the composting spot. We are not joining Valley Waste at the moment. We have entered into an agreement with Valley Waste to use their facility at Lawrencetown. That agreement goes on for 1 year. We pay Valley Waste a certain amount per ton. I think it's $166 a ton for the use of their waste transfer station there. Overall, we are advised by our experts that the cost to the municipality of dealing with our garbage this way will be the same, or in fact, cheaper than if we continued at the West Paradise site. So the West Paradise site will no longer be used as of yesterday, Monday. I believe there may be some requirement to decommission the site. That depends on discussions with the Department of Environment. There are outstanding prosecutions against the county with respect to our use of that West Paradise site. And now that we're no longer using it, our lawyers are speaking to their lawyers, and we're hopeful that something can be worked out that's satisfactory to all sides, but that's where matters stand now. So I think I've covered everything about our current waste management strategy here in Annapolis County. And that concludes my remarks. So we'll go on to District 4.
Yeah, good morning. District 4 has been fairly quiet. I see continued high-speed cable installation going on. It seems to be daily wherever you drive, especially by my house in the last week or two. Lately, going on to another issue, lately the concerns related to the pandemic has been up front and foremost, creating adverse effects in our health situation here in Nova Scotia. I guess I would ask that everyone be vigilant and persist in the struggle to put COVID in its place. You may be tired of hearing it, but I'm going to say it again: stay home, wear your mask, get your vaccines, both first and second shots, but follow the directions issued by the province. It's what's getting us through this time and contain and beat this thing. The numbers lately have proven we all cannot drop our guard. We are not out of the woods yet. On another note, I'd like to thank again Louis Catino, was our acting CAO in the transition through some tough times and for also being willing to continue with us with his wisdom on a consultant basis as we move ahead. I'm also very pleased to welcome David Dick, our new CAO. He is a great asset for us as we move forward managing our current resources and working to bring prosperity to Annapolis County. He will be the perfect individual to get us through a tough and challenging time. Finally, I'd like all residents to bear with us as we work to implement needed change. Working together for a much better future is what we all should do as we look ahead. I guess finish my comments. I would ask that everyone keep safe, and hopefully we can move into a summer with fewer restrictions so we can have a little enjoyment at the end of in this season. Thank you.
Thank you. District 5? Can't hear you. Can't hear you, Councillor Longmire.
Sorry about that. Thank you. I would just like to start on behalf of District 5 welcoming Mr. David Dick, and as well celebrating and thanking Louis Catino for being with us these past several months. On the front in District 5, I'd like to say that over the past few weeks, we have celebrated two really important groups, our nurses and our teacher and educators. I personally know just how much and the work effort that has gone in and through these groups throughout COVID. Our teachers are tirelessly working so our children can stay on track with their educational journey, and as well, our nurses are keeping the front lines strong. I encourage as well for us all to continue to do our part. I sincerely want to thank both of these groups, as well, not to forget their parents and guardians who work tirelessly with their children. Being at home with online learning certainly is not an easy job, along with most parents having to leave their homes each and every day to keep up with their own work. As we get closer to seeing more vaccine, I would strongly encourage everyone to consider receiving it. I know we're now at the point where we're booking for the age groups 30 and up. And with that being said, wash your hands, wear your mask, stay happy, and get some fresh air. The birds are singing, and it's going to be a beautiful season. Thank you.
Thank you very much. District 6?
Thank you. I only have one comment. My colleagues will have noted that in the report submitted to Committee of the Whole last week, there was in the list of building projects one for 843 Highway 1 in Deep Brook to the value of $1 million. And I thought I might have some comments on that, but I haven't. So I put on my Sherlock Holmes hat and went investigating. And at this time, I can say it is a professional building that will be going up 3,500 square feet and will be serving the people of a number of counties of Nova Scotia. I've been told by the contractor that we should see some activity there very soon, and I would expect that the folks behind that project will be communicating with the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Where are we? District 7?
Yes, thank you very much. Things have been very quiet in District 7. I guess the shutdown is the main cause of that. I will, however, mention that the comments I'm hearing regarding our decision to go to Lawrencetown have been very positive. I guess there is a question or two coming up. I guess people are perhaps interested in knowing what's going to happen with the transfer station that we have, or that we had operated in Paradise. But anyway, that is just something that will have to be decided down the road. I guess other than that, that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. District 8? District 8? Is that where we are?
Yes.
Mr.
That's
Gums.
Deputy Warden? District 8?
You just had to find the mute button. Good morning and happy Mental Health Awareness Month to all. I have a short report this month. The calls in District 8 this month have been related to no response from the Department of Transportation, the state of the internet build or intent to build throughout the district, the status of Bear River Comfort Station development plan, the lack of potable water for businesses and residents in Bear River, and the ruin of a burnt house in Lakeele that has not yet been cleaned up. On behalf of the county, I attended a virtual meeting with wardens, mayors, and CAOs from across Nova Scotia tackling affordable housing. There were presenters from Municipal Affairs and the Youth Porthole project. I'll be receiving more information from these presenters in the near future, and if anybody would like me to share them with them, I will. Other than that, I hope everyone enjoys the outdoors like I do, survives black fly season and tick season. Hope you're all well. Thank you.
Thank you. District 9?
Thank you. I also would like to thank Louis Coutinho for all the work he has done and welcome David Dick to our team. Looking forward to working with you, David. Our community recently celebrated COVID style Myrtle Hines, who turned 100 on May 16th. We held a parade of vehicles led by the Nicktoll Fire Department. She was very excited to see the large turnout. Ashley Thompson from Saltwire did a very interesting story reflecting on Myrtle's life and the changes she saw in her last 100 years. The Nicktoll Park group did clean up following COVID restrictions, taking turns raking and cleaning up. The park looks great thanks to our volunteers. I have had several Zoom meetings with groups and would like to thank the volunteers for finding ways during COVID to continue to support members of our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. District 10?
Hi. What I have to say, the Village of Lawrencetown has another series of vaccine clinics. I believe they have 8 going from the 21st to May 16th. And they're looking for volunteers again, more so on the later dates than the early ones. And Ryan Reed, the village, I'm not sure what his title is in charge of all that. And also I was very happy to note that Bell seems to have expanded their coverage all the way out the 10 and around all of Springfield area, and that they seem to be encompassing every street. And the note on their map is that if you have pole service, you will get internet. So that was very, very exciting, because there are a lot of streets out there that weren't going to get coverage. That's pretty much what I have to say.
Thank you. And District 11?
Thank you. Good morning. And first of all, I'd like to say that it is nice to see after yesterday that the COVID numbers are in the double digits, and hopefully they will continue to go down to just single digits or none at all. We are in different times, and it is certainly something that we have to adapt, no matter how we look at it, and then we have to readapt. So at this time, I'd like to say thank you to many nurses and doctors and the government, and even our staff who adapt, work very hard, go with the changes, do the restrictions, keep us in line, even if we don't like it, and continue to try. If we continue to try to do this, we will certainly come out of it and keep our community safe. I also like to say thank you to Dawn for keeping me intrigued about her little bird's nest of all those little cardinals that are coming, and they are cuties. And also I've been fending off some different calls that dealing with transportations, missing signs that are there, and even deer sign crossings that, you know, as the world changes, so does the direction of the deer population and other things as well. So again, everybody keep safe and enjoy the outdoors as much as you can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, thank you, councillors. We'll move along now to business arising from the minutes. The only item on the agenda is the Basin View harness work, which has been moved to late additions with the other Basin View matters. There's no new business under number 6. So we'll move to number 7, reports and recommendations from the Committee of the Whole. So let me just find my spot here.
You need all these read out?
Page
Yeah.
52.
It's on page 52 of 74.
Mhm.
Deputy Warden, do you want to read those
I'll
out?
start. Yep. 1, Police Association of Nova Scotia, 51st Annual Crime Prevention Guide. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council not purchase and add in the PANS 51st Annual Crime Prevention Guide.
There a seconder to that motion? Councillor Connell seconds it. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried.
2, Cox and Palmer continue open files. I move pursuant to the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole that Cox and Palmer continue to handle all litigation files they have opened until managed to its conclusion and otherwise requested by the CAO and Council.
There a seconder for that motion? Councillor Longmire seconds. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried.
3, Liberty Other Counsel for Litigation. In accordance with the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, I move that the municipality be at liberty to retain other counsel for litigation if it desires.
There a seconder for that motion? Councillor Hudson. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next.
Number 4, liberty to retain local counsel for local prosecutions. I move in accordance with the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole that the municipality be at liberty to retain local counsel for local prosecutions.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Redden. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next.
5, enter negotiations to retain Wickwire Home to provide legal services to the municipality. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, I move that the CAO enter into negotiations to retain Wickwire Home barristers and solicitors to provide legal services to the municipality of the County of Annapolis.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Longmire seconds. Discussion? Councillor LeBlanc.
Yes, I was wondering if we are going to are we looking at a number in years, or is that going to be discussed during the negotiations, or it's certainly in this motion?
That's going to be negotiated according to the motion that we enter into negotiations, and Mr. Dick will make his own determination as to what he feels would be appropriate, and Wickwire Home will have to say what they think is appropriate, and if Mr. Dick feels it needs to come back to council, then it'll come back to council. If he feels that It's not really something that needs to come back. I guess he'll move ahead, but it may well come back to council. Right now, his only instruction is to enter into negotiations.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next,
6 AM-1.2.1.1 Internet Reimbursement Policy -new. I move pursuant to 7-day notice having been given at Committee of the Whole that Municipal Council approve AM-1.2.1.1 Internet Reimbursement Policy.
is there a seconder for that motion? Is there, Councillor Hudson seconds? Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Oh, I hear a nay. One nay I heard.
Number 7, AM-6.6.6 Signing Authorities Policy -amend. In accordance with the 7-day notice having been given at Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council amend AM-6.6.6 Signing Authorities Policy by deleting in subsection 5(2)(d) during a period that the CAO is absent, otherwise incapacitated, or in a circumstance that would be perceived as a conflict for the CAO to sign. Deleting in subsection 5(2)(e) municipal clerk and replacing it with treasurer. And deleting subsection 5(2)(f), the deputy municipal clerk, during a period that the municipal clerk is absent, otherwise incapacitated, or in a circumstance that would be perceived as a conflict for the municipal clerk to sign.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Sheridan seconds it. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion's carried.
8, physician recruitment and
Councillor
retention.
Prout?
If I may, before this next one is moved and seconded, can I give a brief update on the topic? I would like to make a motion to rescind this next one, but I don't want to speak out of turn here, but may I proceed?
Sorry, would you say again? What you
This
want to do?
next motion, I would like to make a move to rescind it, but I'll explain why, and I just wanted to get in before it was moved and seconded to complicate the matter, so. You may.
So
proceed.
you're prepared to have it moved and seconded. I don't know if you can, and then,
Well,
and
that's what
then-
I'm saying, Matt, that if that will preclude having it rescinded, I'd rather jump in now.
yeah, I think probably if it's passed, I would suggest that if you have another motion you'd like to make, I'll give you the floor, Councillor Prout.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Sorry for the confusion. When we moved this out of our committee to the Committee of the Whole, there were some developments that have happened in the meantime. We were looking at getting in touch with a doctor. We were looking at getting a virtual tour made, and I know that last week Councillor Sheridan and I discussed what was going on as well. Since then, we now know that, and I was remiss, I had forgotten this, 14 Wing Greenwood is going to produce a virtual tour, and they will put that on the Soldiers Memorial Hospital website. And so that part has been taken care of. And keeping in mind that our committee's mandate is to assist where appropriate, I think it would be in order to rescind this motion and let it let it be for now. I will keep the council and the committee updated. I have 2 meetings upcoming that I'll be forwarding the information to our committee and back to council. But I think at this point, we should stand down and rescind that motion. Thank you.
It would seem to me, Councillor Prout, that the way to proceed, since this motion is on the agenda and it's a recommendation from the Committee of the Whole, that it should be brought forward by the Deputy Warden and seconded. And then in the discussion, you could repeat what you've said, and you can
Okay.
suggest that the motion be amended to read that it be dealt with at a later time,
That's fine. Thank you.
or whatever,
Or-
however you want to deal with it. And then we'll have a discussion on your amendment.
Okay, thank you.
How does that sound?
That sounds good. So you want it moved and seconded first and then under
So
discussion?
we'll let the Deputy Warden move it and second it, and then I think it might be helpful if you repeat again what you said, now that we know where you're going.
Thank you.
And to make a motion for an amendment to, I don't know whether it's to table it or to adjourn it to some other day, whatever you think is appropriate. So I'll ask the Deputy Warden then to read the recommendation from the Committee of the Whole.
8, Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee request. I move in accordance with the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole that Municipal Council request the CAO to contact Dr. Leslie Ribeiro, Middleton Collaborative Practice, to request for council a virtual tour of the new Middleton facility to describe their model of care.
Is there a seconder for the
and to
motion?
describe-
Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Longmire seconds. So Councillor Connell, I'll come back to you, Councillor Prout, but Councillor Connell, go ahead.
I'll be voting against the motion and hopefully it won't pass and then that'll take care of it and let the committee do their job. I think it was overlooked and new information was brought forth. And I think when we have committees, no matter if it's from the province or from our local area that we have counselors sit on, I think that we let them do their job and bring the information back to council instead of sending too many people into the fire confuses things, and it takes the appreciation away from the volunteers that are sitting on this committee. They're doing their job. They've got it set up. It just wasn't the information all wasn't given because they had a meeting that day after or the night of or the day after of our committee meeting. So hopefully this motion will just be defeated and let the committee do their job and bring our reports when they get them. So I'll be voting against the motion.
Any other comments before I come back to Councillor Prout? Councillor Sheridan.
So just in the regards with Councillor Prout, I believe Councillor Prout is new in this position and he only has attended one of the doctor recruitment meetings. So he wasn't aware of how strong a group these people are and what they take under their wing and do. And they're the ones that are looking after any inquiries pertaining to doctors and healthcare. And I think I'm trying to think of his name. Don has been in contact with Councillor Prout, and Councillor Prout is now aware of how things work. So I will also be voting against this motion just to defeat it so the committee can do their job.
I see. So the thrust I'm taking from what both you and Councillor Connell are saying is that instead of council taking a tour, it should be the committee taking the tour and reporting back to council. That's the thrust of
Correct.
what you're saying.
Mhm.
Councillor Prout, you'll have the last word. I think I saw Deputy Ward. Did you have your hand up?
Yes.
Would you go ahead?
Please. Thank you. So months ago, somebody mentioned to me, they said, I know how to solve this doctor shortage. Real easy. We'll go to Dalhousie Med School and we'll pay for the doctor's education if they guarantee them that they'll stay in Nova Scotia for 10 years. Have we ever given any thought of that? Are these groups ever given any thought to that and gone after the government to find out if that's possible? Thank you. That's all I got to say.
Any other comments? Councillor Prout, perhaps you'd like to close the circle now. I'll just leave it, we've had a couple of people say that they're going to vote against the motion, so perhaps we should just take our chances there, or you can make an amendment to adjourn it, perhaps. It's up to you, so go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Just to recap, and I thank councillors for their comments. If this motion were to be defeated, that would be perhaps the cleanest way to look after it. And I've been known to play poker, but I want to make sure that it does not go forward. Just to recap, there's an overall sort of an umbrella group now that we are part of. The committee is part of. I'm representing the Mid-Valley group, and they're a huge group, a lot of people. We have another meeting set up for May the 28th. In the meantime, I'll be in touch with a person in Kentville, and I'll be setting up, or she'll be setting up a meeting with our 4-person committee. But for what's in front of us here, the idea of a virtual tour that is being put together, and it will be available on the website, and you would be able to access it as a council or anyone wishing to go on once it's up there. That part is looked after. And as Councillor Sheridan has said, Don Hislop, who's the chair of this group, is working very hard along with people from a number of walks of life and places. And we don't want to do anything to step on toes or to muddy the waters. There are a lot of things, Councillor Gunn's comments, people are working on a lot of possibilities to bring physicians and medical people of different specialties to our area. So I'm torn between asking to have it rescinded. I'm going to look to our clerk to see, what would you suggest?
I think that we can't rescind a motion that's on the floor. You can only rescind a motion that's been passed, but so far you would be voting against the motion.
I definitely would be voting against the motion.
And I do see that the clerk wants to say something, so I'll recognize the clerk.
So thank you, Warden Parrish. So you can either let the motion go forward and see how it falls, or a motion to table will stop it right now.
I would move that it be tabled in that case, respectfully. Thank you.
Is there a seconder to the motion to table? Councillor Sheridan seconds the motion to table. So I don't know if a motion to table is debatable. Madam Clerk, is it debatable?
I am not sure.
Well, I think we've had a good discussion. Unless I'll ask anybody else if they want to speak. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. I'm a bit confused. I was quite taken with Councillor Connell's suggestion that we let the committee do its work. And I thought he was referring to our committee, which is very capably chaired by Councillor Prout. But then it appeared to me that maybe the committee to which Councillor Connell was referring was another organization, either the Mid-Valley Committee or the Valley Foundation. My main point is that I want to be sure that any organization to which we belong with regard to recruiting and retention of physicians covers the whole of Annapolis County. And I'm not sure that is now the case. Thank you.
Councillor Connell.
Councillor Morrison is correct on, and I guess that's a question I had in the back of my mind. I didn't know we had duplicate committees if we had a committee at council that's trying to do recruiting. And if we have, we shouldn't be including in the area that's already has a committee dealing with the Department of Health and stuff to recruit. But the recruitment committee for the eastern end of the county and into Kings County only includes from Greenwood, Kingston, Middleton, Lawrencetown, and Bridgetown. It only goes as far as Bridgetown. So that's the group that's working hard on recruiting physicians and doctors for our area in the eastern end. If a county has a committee trying to duplicate it, we shouldn't have. We should have a committee from Bridgetown to Cornwallis if that's needed. But to duplicate a committee and two committees fighting for the same thing, in my mind, is a waste of taxpayers' money, energy, and whatsoever. We have representation counselors on the committee that's representing as far as Bridgetown. So if Councillor Morrison is working or alongside of talking with people in the Cornwallis area or from Bridgetown down to recruit somebody in that area, then I can see the council having a committee doing that. But a council committee working against another committee is useless because they're already ahead of the game. They've already been talking to doctors. They've already been recruiting. They've got CFB Greenwood behind them. They've got good representation from the health center behind them. We got good counselors on it. So if there needs to be, if council has got a committee, it should be dedicated from Bridgetown to Cornwallis.
Any further discussion on the motion to table?
Sorry.
Councillor Prout?
I was going to defer to Councillor Morrison first, since I didn't see his hand. So.
Councillor Morrison?
Thank you. My final comments, I think the county does have a committee. It was established a couple of years ago. It has a mandate and the work of the committee has been reported on to Committee of the Whole and to council. And also, I hesitate to say this, but there is a great part of Annapolis County that lies to the west of Cornwallis Park. And I just want to be sure that our whole county is included. Thank you.
Councillor Barto?
Yeah, I guess I was a little confused to start with about the Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee lead in on that apparently there is duplicate committees. Now, how do we isolate our committee so that it doesn't look like it is this committee? Because the title's the same. And I have problems with that. And I think if there is good committees working on areas that maybe our county physician recruitment and retention committee should be looking at, is there any other groups in the Annapolis or in this western end of the province that is looking after the other portion of residents? Like maybe we should not assume that a committee is doing something and then lose sight of looking after the remainder of the residents. So I guess we need to resolve some of this and refocus our committee. You know, in our committee, if we have cross-representation from our recruitment and retention committee, chairs and otherwise, associated with a private physician recruitment retention committee, there's a little bit of murkiness to it. And I think that I'll be voting against this for now. I don't think it is the way to go at this point, but we need to maybe for our next Committee of the Whole bring this to an item of discussion again to restart or activate our own committee for the purpose it was set up. Thank you.
And when you say you're going to vote against it, I take it you'll be voting in favor of the motion to table, which is the motion that's on the floor.
Okay, that's where we're talking now. Yeah, to table.
And,
Yes. Yes.
And I will say, I don't think that this motion that we have before us is really the spot to discuss about different committees that we have and what their jurisdiction might be. This was simply, this was an idea that council would be going in and getting a separate virtual tour. And the idea is that we'd leave it to a committee that's already working on it. So there's a motion. The motion on the floor is to table the motion about the Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee request for council to have a virtual tour. That's the motion to table. Any else want to speak to the motion to table? Councillor Prout.
Thank you. If I may, just to clear up a couple of things. There are two separate committees. The Mid-Valley one is an overarching one that takes in a number of towns and the municipality of Kings, the municipality of Annapolis, in that I am sitting on that. Our own Annapolis County Physicians Recruitment and Retention Committee is 4 members of council. There is strength in numbers. I was asked by Donnie Hislop to go to their meetings. I continue to receive their information, but we are not, I am very cognizant of Councillor Morrison's and others who have spoken to, we have people outside of the scope of, or the reach of Soldiers Memorial Hospital, and particularly Annapolis, Royal, Cornwallis, and so on. And I think that's where our group of 4 councillors can best put forward our efforts to see what we can do in that area. So thank you I'm sorry for the lengthy discussion, but I do wish that this can be taken from the table for now. So thank you very much.
The motion on the floor is to table the motion that the Deputy Warden read out. Is there any further discussion on the motion to table? If not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So next, King's Transit. You're muted, Deputy Warden.
Thank you. King's Transit Transportation Service in Annapolis County. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council direct the CAO to provide a report on King's Transit Transportation Service in Annapolis County.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor LeBlanc seconds it. Discussion? Councillor Morrison?
Thank you. I'd like to inquire whether that motion is sufficiently worded so as to enable the CAO to render a substantial and substantive report on all aspects of the King's Transit operation to council.
I just turned away from it. I'm just going to try and find it again. Oh, 52, lost it. I took it that it was widely worded. I can't pull it up. I've lost it in my papers. Anyone else have any discussion about the motion? Councillor Redden?
Very much in the same vein of Councillor Morrison, I had concerns that it was very broadly worded to the point of being quite ambiguous. I remember our conversation being more around usage and whatnot of the service and whether it was effective and those sorts of things, but that was just our conversation. To me, it sounds like we just want some general report about what it is. And I mean, I don't think that's necessarily an effective report. I think it's just a report that's going to give us lots of ambiguous information, but doesn't really inform us very well. So I don't know. I was more curious if we wanted something a little narrower. I mean, personally, I'd want to see something about effectiveness and are we achieving the goals that we set out for King's Transit? It was quite a long time ago. We set that, went into that, engaged them in that agreement. So I'm curious if we're still moving along that path. Like it's very easy over time to start out trying to achieve something, and then through iterative changes, you end up being somewhere completely different. And that's more the type of material I'd like to see covered in this report. And I don't think this motion covers it very effectively. It's, as Mr. Morrison said, Councilor Morrison said, just very vague.
Mr. Dick, can you tell us how you would take this motion, assuming it was passed in the wording that it is?
I guess my assumption would be at the end of the day, it would be an all-encompassing report. It would provide some history in terms of what the expectations were. It would talk to where we are in terms of meeting those expectations. It would talk about the value of the transit service to the residents of the community. I think it would be a report that would probably take a number of months to put together, but at the end of the day, subject to what council's desire would be, we would probably have a recommendation that would suggest that we're going to continue in this program or provide alternative solutions. So it would be, in my opinion, it would be something that would be all encompassing. And there would be some decisions that would need to be made at the end of those discussions.
Okay, I'll come back to you, Councilor Morrison, if there's someone else that wants to speak. I don't see anyone. So Councilor Morrison, go ahead.
Thank you. I was quite taken that the CAO began, I assume, and I'm not quite sure whether it is the job of council to provide more than an umbrella motion on subjects. But I think in the future, when we craft motions asking the CAO to do something, we don't leave it entirely to the CAO to assume that that is what we meant when we said what we did. I'd like us to bear that in mind as we craft future motions. Thank you.
Fair comment. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, now we're into correspondence. The letter from Ms. Spur is going to be included in the discussion on Basin View. Next is the Navy League of Canada. That's at page 65 of 74 in the package from the Navy League.
Move to receive.
Move to receive by the Deputy Warden. Is there a second? Seconded by Councillor Connell. Is there any discussion with respect to that letter? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Next is a letter from the Annapolis West Health Foundation, which thanks us for our donation. Is there a motion in that regard?
Move to
Moved by
receive.
Deputy Warden to receive for information, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Discussion on that letter? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next is a letter from the Cornwallis Park Community Association addressed to Nancy Chisholm, thanking us for a grant of $2,400 with respect to a refrigerator. Is there a motion in respect to that letter? Deputy
receive.
Warden moves to receive for information. Is there a second? Councillor Morrison seconds. Is there discussion with respect to that letter? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next is a letter from the Minister of the Municipal Affairs dated April 27th, 2021. It's actually a letter to the acting president of the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities. It's a fairly lengthy letter, and what it does is it gives a 12-month notice from the ministry to this municipality, advising us of increases in the costs that are going to be put for us to pay in the future. Talks about a number of things, including the cost for RCMP, accessibility issues, library funding, things like that. Is there a mover to receive that for information? Moved by the Deputy Warden. Second, is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Barto seconds. Is there any discussion with respect to this letter? Deputy Warden?
Thank you. It's very nice of the government to let us know what they're going to download on us in the next year coming. Thank you.
Councillor LeBlanc?
Thank you. It certainly is an informative letter, and it's something we just can't put aside because there's a lot of money involved here on what's going to be done and how much we have to come up with. So we either have to we can't just move to approve. We have to certainly try to think of, go to part two as to have an estimate on what maybe our staff consider that will be coming up the pike in the next year or two. Or next year. There's a lot of dates for next year or two. However, maybe there's some of these that should be taken to the NSFM and told that there are some things here that as municipalities, we just can't come up with all this money because it's not just one facet. There are several all at once. Those are my opinions on this, and thank you for letting me share them.
Any other comments with respect to this letter from the minister? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote to receive. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Next is the letter from the YMCA, which again has been moved to our discussion on Basin View. Bear with me for a moment. I'm just moving my papers around here. Next, number 9, in camera. There are two matters to discuss in camera. I think we'll do that now because I don't think it'll take long. And then we'll come back for the Basin View discussion. So we'll proceed in the order of the agenda. And these will be with respect to litigation, section 22(2). And Madam Clerk, can you tell me what the subsection is that deals with litigation?
Yes.
F?
Yes.
Could I ask for a motion to go in camera with respect to litigation matters moved by the Deputy Warden, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried.
Okay, just
So
hold the phone.
yeah. We're back on the record. Thank you very much. We finished the in-camera section of the meeting, which is item number 9. And we're on to late additions, which is the Basin View discussion. It's almost lunchtime. I think this will be a lengthy discussion. My sense is that we should probably break now and come back at 1 o'clock when we're fresh. but I'm prepared to abide by the view of council. If anybody would like to, Councillor Connell, would you like to speak on that subject, whether we adjourn for lunch?
The only thing is that I can't attend after lunch. I have a doctor's appointment that I have to make. And I don't mind the discussion going on without me. I know that we got some big decisions to make and to go forward there, but I've read all the reports and I don't think my vote's going to make a big decision on that. So I'm just saying that when we close off for lunch, I'll be saying goodbye for today.
Yeah, if you had to leave at 12, even if we started now, I don't think we'd finish. And you will realize that it's up to council, but I'm going to suggest that we have a discussion, but then not make any final decisions until Friday, when people have had more of a chance to reflect on something we just learned yesterday. So I'm getting the sense, looking at the screen, unfortunately it's a screen, that we break for lunch and come back at 1 o'clock. Do I need a motion for that, Madam Clerk, or can we?
You have the power to declare a lunch break.
Boy, take all the power I can get. So we'll have a break and we'll come back at 1 o'clock.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, are we on?
Yes.
Welcome, everybody. This is the afternoon session of the council meeting of the County of Annapolis. We have one item on the agenda, and that is a discussion with respect to the Basin View Center. I'm going to start off this discussion by reading an email that we received from our insurance broker yesterday, May the 17th. Because the issue that's come up is that we're advised that we likely won't have insurance on the building after June the 18th. So in order of full disclosure, and to make sure that the councilors themselves understand what was reported, I'm going to read it. It's addressed to David Dick and Steve McGinnis, and as you know, Mr. McGinnis has retired. First, it's from Sherry Spencer. She's our insurance broker. First, I would like to thank you for sending the roofing contractor report, and hopefully you can send me the electrical report today. As you are aware, your renewal date for Basin View is tomorrow, May 18th, 2021. That's today. After review of the reports provided to them, Northbridge Insurance has advised that they are not willing to renew your policy due to underwriting reasons. That being said, we have negotiated a 30-day extension based on the expiring terms and conditions, which will provide us coverage until June 18, 2021. We have received confirmation that the two subscribers, these are minority participants in the insurance coverage, Burns and Wilcox and Totten Group Insurance, will continue with their respective percentages of participation. I will forward you the 30-day extension documents as soon as I receive same. David, as a bit of background information for you, Northbridge Insurance has been your lead carrier, 60% of the property account, and Royal Sun Alliance had participated on the property section of your account in the amount of 40%. It was after the Royal and Sun Alliance inspection that they determined to get off the risk due to the condition of the building. Royal and Sun Alliance canceled the policy effective January 4th, 2021. And we filled that 40% with Burns and Wilcox, 25%, and Totten Group, 15%. Both Burns and Wilcox and Totten Group Insurance have declined to take additional percentages of participation or lead carrier position. Once again, David, as a bit of background, your municipal insurer, Frank Cowan, has also declined to provide coverage on the building due to the structural and claims issues. We have approached another carrier who is currently reviewing all reports and information, as they had indicated they may be able to provide lead terms. We are working closely with them to obtain terms. However, I wanted to prepare you with this notice that coverage will be difficult to obtain, and I expect there could be deductible and rate increases. We continue to seek alternative markets for coverage. However, as Steve will recall, we did an exhaustive search of the markets in December and were not able to obtain any other markets to consider the risk at that time. I would encourage you to keep me updated as quickly as possible as to the status of your response to the reports and to forward me the electrical report right away, as the new carrier wants to review that before committing. If we can provide the updates that the county is quickly and effectively responding to the issues in the reports, it will be extremely helpful for us to locate a carrier willing to provide coverage. Please let me know if you will be proceeding with the roof repairs as indicated in the roofing report, and if there has been any other recommendations that have been completed to date. Thanks very much, and as always, should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me at any time. Sherry Spencer, Commercial Insurance Advisor. So that came in yesterday. Now, Mr. Dick called Ms. Spencer this morning to get her, as best she could, her view as to what the likelihood is that we may get a new lead carrier. And Mr. Dick, could you report on that conversation?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. So I called Sherry this morning before the beginning of our meeting at 10 o'clock, just to get a sense of the likelihood of, in her opinion, of us finding a carrier to take on this risk. As she said in the letter, she's been attempting to find coverage since last December, and clearly has had a great deal of difficulty in finding one. I told her I wouldn't quote her on this, but I will. I'll put words in her mouth. The likelihood of us finding somebody post January or June 18th, excuse me, is remote at best. So I went into a different tact and said, what if we took away the property side of the insurance and just had liability there in the short term until future decisions could be made? That's not. That would not happen because of the link between the property and the liability side. She said you can't really have one without the other. And then I spoke to her, could we insure one part of the building versus the other part of the building? And again, because the building is so intrinsic to each other, in her view, no carrier would separate the two components of the building. And I mean the commercial side relative to the YMCA side. So in a nutshell, in her opinion, if, and that's a big if, we were lucky to find a carrier, the premiums and the respective deductible would be excessive. In her opinion, the likelihood of finding somebody at this point is remote, given they would need something done from a physical repair perspective in the next short while. And I'm not convinced that council is ready to make a commitment to make that level of expenditure. So that's pretty much the discussion she and I had this morning.
Thank you. Thank you. So the tenants that we have are all on 30-day month to month. I believe two of the commercial places aren't occupied at the moment in any event. So as I indicated to council in my note last night, what I would like to do is to put a motion on the floor to not make any final decision on this until a special meeting of council Friday. Now, the motivation for that is simple. This is a big decision. We've talked about it a long time. And the last thing I want to do is put council in a position where they have to make a snap decision on something. They should at least have a couple of days to think about it. And any other interested parties to this decision would have a chance to contact their counselors, and we could talk about it on Friday. I wanted to avoid the situation where, the first counselor with his hand up made the motion, and we debated that motion and maybe came to a decision without also knowing that one of the options is to deal with it on Friday. I'm still going to call for somebody to make that motion, but I will say before I do that I'm prepared to make a decision today based on what I know. But I just don't want to ever be accused of putting council in a position where they have to make a snap decision if they don't want to. So it's coming from my sense of fairness to council that I'd like to have a motion that we deal with this on Friday. And if after the discussion, it'll be a lengthy discussion, council comes to the conclusion that they want to do something today, they'll defeat the motion on the floor and make another decision. So that's where I'm coming from. And if anybody would like to, I think Councilor Morrison, you'd like to say something before I call for a motion, would you?
No, I'd like to make the motion that we defer making a decision on Basin View Center until Friday.
Okay, is there a seconder? Deputy Warden seconds. So there was a motion on the floor, and I will now open the floor for discussion on, and as I said, wide-ranging discussion on the Basin View issues to see where we are all on this. Councilor Morrison, would you like to begin? Oh, by the way, I'd like to keep it to two. Everybody speaks twice. I think everybody's going to have something to say, and we don't want to go around in circles. So we'll try to keep it to twice each. Councilor Morrison.
Thank you very much. We've been discussing this now for quite some time. But last night, when I received the email you sent out with regard to the insurance, it certainly served to focus the mind. Council has known for quite some time that there were large maintenance problems considered with regard to Basin View Center without much action being taken. And we were also aware for a lesser period of time, I think, about impending in the next 5 or 10 years capital expenditures. We have just heard from the clerk that there are some folks who would like to be present at a meeting to discuss Basin View. And I think it is only fair that we give them an opportunity to do that and not carry out what the warden just referred to as a snap decision today. And those are some of the reasons for.
I'm sorry, the clerk had her hand up, Councilor Morrison. Are we not, is there something wrong?
No, I just wanted to clarify that it wasn't people interested in presenting at a meeting. It was people interested in being present at a meeting where it was being discussed.
Thank you. Go ahead,
Thank you for that clarification. But that clarification in and of itself does not prevent participants from seeking permission of council to make a presentation if indeed they might wish to do so. I'm just wondering whether anyone can provide us with any consideration staff have given to approaching the federal government in and of itself and the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency and the provincial government with regard to this building. It seems to me that we have been discussing it long enough. It's commercial, it's residential, and above all, it's health benefits to people in large sections of Annapolis County and in Digby County and sometimes elsewhere. It seems
if you'd like to put that question to staff, Councilor Morrison, would you like to put that question to staff now?
Okay.
To staff, Mr. Dick, you may not be aware since you've been here for 2 weeks, but other staff that are here with us. Does anybody know of any approaches for funding to any government bodies with respect to Basin View? Mr. Dick?
I can't speak on behalf of the rest of the staff. I think we have just generally discussed it. Is there opportunities there? But it's just at a discussion level. So maybe Dawn and or Holly or Janice, maybe you may have had more fulfilling discussions along that subject. I certainly haven't.
As the warden, I'm not aware of any. Councillor Morrison?
Thank you. And well, then I would say that those are areas that certainly should have been, and as they haven't, ought to be explored, because anyone who reads the newspapers knows that there is always government money for a worthy cause. You indicated, Warden, that each one of us would be entitled to speak twice in this discussion, and I will conclude my intervention for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Sheridan?
So regarding what Councillor Morrison was just speaking of, we only have 30 days according to the insurance company. And then what happens after 30 days? Do we ask for another extension because we're looking for funding? I'm just wondering how we're going to go about this if this is the route council wishes to take. And the other question I had is regarding the roof. You had mentioned in the letter that there was a roof report. I don't recall seeing a roof report. I was just wondering what that was all about.
And could any staff respond to that?
Certainly, I can respond to the first question. The likelihood of getting another 30-day extension beyond the extension that we have now is unlikely. The only way we could get continued insurance, based on the discussion I had with the broker this morning, is if we make the necessary repairs to the facility.
But are you familiar with a roof report?
The roof report, Janice, did we receive a roof report this week? You're on mute.
Ms. Young, you're muted.
I haven't received it.
I will look to see if we've in fact received that report. And if we have, then I'll forward it to council's attention.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Prout. You're muted, Councillor Prout.
Thank you. I guess when I heard about a roof report, I was a bit confused as well, because I assumed it had to do with putting all the safety harnesses on the roof and so on. And I was thinking that had already been done. So I must have been incorrect on that. And that's the only report that I was aware of ever seeing it to do with, that was a major part of the roof. We were going to make sure that the safety harnesses were put on.
That's why I didn't know what
Okay,
it was.
so we'll get that.
Yeah, okay.
Make a PDF and send it out.
Sorry, I'm hearing some voices. Oh. Anybody else?
Mr. Warden, we do have a copy of the report. We will send that out to council immediately.
And to the insurer?
Pardon me?
And to Ms. Spencer, the insurer?
Yes.
Any other comments about where we're going on Basin View? Councillor LeBlanc?
So with this roof report, do we see it as being beneficial to the insurance, as taking over, getting some insurance with this, or is it just a roof report?
My opinion would be that this is a component of the significant level of repairs that would need to be implemented before we get full insurance. Certainly, this is a component of it. Certainly, there's the wall, the east wall that would have to be repaired. That's another big concern that the insurance company has.
Yeah, I see from the memo I just read that the roofing report has already been sent to the insurance broker, so perhaps it could just be sent to council so that we have it if we don't.
Okay.
Councillor Hudson. You're muted, Councillor Hudson.
Is there a separate electrical report as well? Is that something new?
I can't answer those questions.
The insurance companies referred to that again. I'm not sure that that's being received yet. I'll follow up with Janice to see if that one is in fact being received.
Any other comments? Councillor Redden?
I think I want to start with, like, I'm still a really strong supporter of the Y as an organization, but the building is very hard to still support in my books. Going through the geotechnical support or report, I think is fairly damning in my books. They give some solutions, but they're not cheap. And the CBCL report also is sort of, there's a solution for the wall, but it's money, a fair amount of money. And I'm kind of curious, have those reports, I assume they've been sent to our insurance companies as well?
They have, yes.
Where am I? Just looking at my notes here. And then back to Councillor Morrison's question there. I spoke with Steve once about a little bit of the whether we'd followed up on the recommendations of the Digicon report in particular. And he had said they had pursued some funding, but I don't remember through which organization, and that it was sort of bureaucratically problematic. There was not much detail in that conversation. But yeah, the geotechnical report in particular I found quite concerning. That's my comment there.
Okay. I think I'll jump in now, put on my hat of councillor for district number 3 and tell you where I am. I'm not prepared to have this building continue to be open without insurance. As the guardian of our taxpayers' dollars, I don't want to take the risk of our taxpayers' dollars of a large claim when we're not insured. So to me, if we don't have insurance, the building's got to be closed. We've got 30 days of insurance coverage left as of today. And if we're going to give 30 days notice, then that notice should go out today. There are also all the engineering reports that we've had, and I agree with Councillor Redden. I read the reports of the geotechnical and the wall, and they're difficult. They suggest some repairs, but they're very expensive, and particularly with the one under the pool, there's no guarantees. So this is even if we could get very expensive insurance. And we all know that it's costing us $600,000 to $650,000 a year just in maintenance and covering costs, operating costs of that facility, before we talk about all the other stuff like the pool and the wall and the roof and the harness and everything else that we have to do. So as far as I'm concerned, the insurance is the death knell of the building to me. And the only thing is when to do it, when the right time to do it is. I think it's very unlikely we get insurance. If we don't, so the question is, let's say, just for the sake of argument, we keep waiting to see if we're going to get insurance coverage. Let's say we wait until June the 17th. And we're told we don't have any insurance. So as far as I'm concerned, I would vote at that point to shut it down that day. Which would mean we wouldn't give 30 days notice to the tenants, which would mean they would have a claim against us for some amount, and it's difficult to ascertain what the amount would be. Because they have to have time to give notice to their employees, and they would have a claim for loss of profit over the 30 days. There's also the ancillary question of 30 days notice, whether it has to be from, I'm assuming they pay their rent at the end or the beginning of the month, and whether it has to be a full month cycle or not. So we might be late as it is already. Don't know. And then there's the YMCA aspect of the building. The YMCA technically doesn't have a lease. I and Mr. Dick and the lawyers have been going over the agreement with the Y quite in detail over the past week or 2 weeks. I don't know if this is really the time to get into it, but we've been paying their deficit over the past number of years, as I understand it. I could be wrong, but I think that we've been paying their deficit when the contract says that the budget is not to project a deficit, and if they're over 5% of their budget, then they're to leave within three months. So if we give, in other words, there is an operating agreement with the Y, there's not a lease. And to me, I will say that the operating agreement does have some clauses in it that you'd likely find perhaps in a lease, but it's not a lease in the traditional form. So if we give 30 days notice to the Y, we're going to have to work that out with the Y. You realize that one of the letters on the agenda today is the letter where they say that they're not happy with the way we kept up the building, and that they want to proceed to mediation with respect to the difficulties between us. I go back to the fact that my vote would be not to operate this building without insurance. We've been told that we've got insurance for another 30 days. And in light of all the other very negative building reports, in light of the money that it's costing us, even if we kept the building going, it would be my view to make a decision today to give 30 days notice to all the tenants, including the Y. However, as I said, I don't want others around the table, if I can put it that way, looking at the screen, to feel that they need to make a quick decision like this. But I thought I would set out my view on where we are today, wearing my hat as one of the counselors around the table. I invite other comments. Councillor Longmire.
Thank you. So I guess going through and listening to all of the others speak, so much of what they have said is exactly how I feel, and I do feel I will grieve the loss of the Y per se, because I am a member. But at the same time, the reports, the history, the long-lived issues with the building, and the lack of appropriate, responsible management has now come, to a point where we have to make the most reasonable decision. Would I like to think that we could have citizens engage in a meeting? COVID has prevented all and any of that, but this isn't just today's issue. This issue, its origin was even earlier than 2018, at which time the county would have had plenty of time to seek out funding, looking into, improvement, or finding the issues. I can't interpret the engineering and the electrical, all those reports, because I'm not an expert. So I would rely completely on a guided tour of those reports. However, I can read and I can understand to some degree what I am looking at, but I certainly would not be in favor of continuing on the way we are. And I know with the liability and the insurance, we're just going down a really dark rabbit hole, in my opinion. Just stop it there.
Any other discussions? Remember, the motion on the floor is to put this over till Friday. Councillor Sheridan?
I totally in agreement with giving the tenants as much notice as possible. And if we've only got insurance coverage until the 18th, I am in favor of today making that decision and to allow them time. Those 30 days are important. Every day is going to count for them to pack up and get their things out and move on. To prolong it and wait, then we could be, like you had mentioned, liable for those tenants with some type of payment back to them because we're not giving them enough time. The other thing that concerns me is if the building is shut down and we do not have insurance, at that point, do we have to demolish the building to take away our liability for that building? Because if we can't get insurance, there's still a chance that somebody could wander into that building. So how quick do we have to demolish the building or whatever we're going to do with it? I guess I have concerns there as well.
You raised an interest. I had a thought, Councillor Sheridan, when you said that. You'll recall that we did put out a request for proposals for people that are interested in purchasing the building. I think they're due to come back by the end of the month, or maybe it's the 28th of the month. And I understand there are two parties that have expressed an interest in doing that. Although I don't know how interested they're going to be if they can't get insurance on the building. But I should say that there are two parties that were interested. If we did give notice and by the end of the month we had an interested proponent, you know, I guess there'd be still time for somebody to try and arrange things by the 18th. I don't know, but I wanted to make clear that we did have that request for proposals and there's two interested parties. I don't know how interested they are. Any other comments about the motion on the floor? Councillor Proud, have you spoken once on this? I forget.
I spoke on the roof report. I was think a lot of people were looking for clarification.
Well, go ahead. The deputy warden had his hand up too. I'll go to you, Councillor Proud.
Thank you. I was glad to hear about the RFPs because I've been checking the paper, seeing how long that's been in the Chronicle, hoping that we'd get some. 2 points, if I may. Is there a Hail Mary out there that anyone, I know Councillor Morrison has suggested maybe a COA. I don't know. I do agree it's very problematic, if not impossible, to operate it without insurance. But I just wonder, I really think if we sign the death warrant, so to speak, on that building, it will be a tremendous loss, and to ever bring anything back close to that is going to cost us as much or more than what we were looking at spending. Is it an easy decision? It isn't. I mentioned, I think on one of our first debates, that I felt this was the toughest file that we would have to deal with. And I was hoping, and I still have hope, that we'll be able to come to some arrangement to keep it going. But the light is growing dim. I do take your concerns, the concerns that have been expressed around the screen here, but it will be a tremendous loss to lose, you know, the stores, the buildings, the Y, all that means to District 6 and to Western end of the county of Annapolis. It will be a dark day if that happens. I'm hopeful that we can come to some agreement with either people with the RFPs or with the insurance or both, or what has to be done to save it. That's my hope. Thank you.
Deputy Warden?
Thank you. Yeah, the parties, we've got these RFPs out and some, but we've got a couple of interested parties. They could probably, get insurance if they agree to do the work and let the insurance company know that the work's going to get done. They'll get insurance. I'm not too worried about it. It's the same as if Annapolis County wanted to keep this building going and we told the insurance companies, we're going to do all the work, they'll give us work. They'll make sure we're insured. I'm sure of that. They want the business. So I'm not going to get too bent out of the shape of that. One of the things that's coming to me is the engineering reports that we received, the Annapolis County got done. My God, they cost us a lot of money. I know they did. I remember some of the prices were absolutely horrendous. And conflicting reports, as Ms. Spur's letter has pointed out. I'm not going to get into that. So what it does to me, and it highlights for me, was a point I've been making, is that Annapolis County needs an engineer. We need our own engineer to look at these projects and tell us the downfalls and forewarn us about what's going to happen. Not everything's working nominally. Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call for, Councilor LeBlanc, did you want to say something?
I guess the question on the floor is to wait till Friday. But my question still goes back to the people that are in the complex and not being able, and the insurance going on June 18th. It is, you can't have a complex without having insurance. So what happens if we don't have the appropriate time to give the people that are there to move out, to do their stuff? It's already been said. However, it is a very compelling issue that we cannot put insurance on our building after June 18th. That's what I hear loud and clear until major things are done. And we can't do major things in a month. There's just trying to find the people to go in and get something done would be next to impossible. So having said that, the question is kind of difficult to decide on. Do we wait till Friday? Or do we give them a full month to be able to move out of their different sections of the building? That's my concern. The people that are there and having the appropriate insurance to cover them while they're moving stuff out of the building. And I think we certainly have to take consideration on that in every level. And because we can't let people go in if you don't have insurance, you can't let anybody go in, correct? So how do they get the remainder of their stuff? Right?
Right.
There's the
Right.
problem.
It is.
So I have a hard, to me, if anything today that is brought to my attention is the fact that we do need to give them notice because for their security, for what they have in there, for peace of mind, for us to be covering our people that are working in there. That's my thoughts. Thank you.
Councilor Barto. You're muted, Councilor Barto.
Sorry about that. Thank you. I agree with a lot of the comments. I think for legalities and stuff, we remiss if we didn't move forward and try to get those notices out today. That way we have our 30-day notice. I'm assuming that it would qualify. And then if something miraculous comes between now and Friday, when we go to vote on this, we can always retract or recoup or redirect ourselves from there. But I think we need to get the notices out immediately. There's a lot of issues here. The buildings caused us a lot of problems, and it seems to be getting exponential. It was one thing, then another, and now it's like a snowball. It's growing at a fast rate as we go down the hill. We cannot run the building with insurance. We've discussed that. I think we know that. We would have huge liability issues. I think if we get the 30-day notice out now, maybe the issue or the comment of paying somebody for loss of profits because they didn't have proper notification, we would get out of that, or at least limit it to a matter of a few days. If we needed that to get to the 30 days. But so I don't think we should delay that. As far as there's so many questions, like the reports, like Deputy Warden Gunn mentioned, and related to the Spur letter. There's so many controversies between professionals, and I can't believe we're paying all these big bucks for these reports to professionals and getting such a conflicting reports, like on amounts and projected costs. Like it's like one says 20,000, the other one says 200,000 for the same thing. That's just ridiculous. I think we have to step back and we need somebody on staff that can read between the lines on these things and figure this out, or throw it back to the consultants to say, okay, did you move a decimal in your figures inadvertently? Like what's the reason for this? Like, and that's a lot of what's we're using for data to base our decisions on. To if it's going to cost us $20,000, one thing. If it's going to cost us $200,000, it's another thing. It'll be a big loss for the area if this facility was to be closed. But I think our hands are getting tied. We're at a point where we got to weigh out the economics and the values very quickly. But I guess the bottom line is that those notices should be out immediately, irregardless of what we do on Friday.
Any other comments? Councillor Sheridan?
I was just wondering, if we were to give notice, could those be hand delivered today so they could get to them as soon as possible?
I believe so. I spoke to our lawyers before the meeting today and again at lunch. And he said if there's a decision today to give notice, that he could draft something up, and I'm sure send it to Mr. Dick, who could arrange to have it served today, I would hope.
Thank you.
Councillor Morrison?
Thank you. This is a very good case study in the results of procrastination. We have, to a certain extent, substantively procrastinated until we have reached deadlines which some of us say can never be changed. Some of that, I think, was with intent, and of course, some of it was not with intent. The question of insurance is a very major question. However, we thought, and I understand we knew about this insurance challenge, or some of us knew, as far back as January. Probably a few days ago, we didn't know if we were going to have insurance. And then the carriers say, all right, we will insure you for another 30 days. There's nothing to say, I think, that that same action could be repeated. The question of 30 days notice is not one with which I will argue. And the question as to whether it could be a 30-day rolling notice, that is 30 days from every day, if, for example, something happens on the 20th of May at the site visits to indicate that there are serious folks. I would also like to think that we would approach various levels of government in the days between now and Friday to ascertain whether there was any hope at all of serious consideration by various levels of government as to this building. If this building is closed, it's not a hollowing out of the community. It's a hollowing out of the county. And it will affect negatively the health of a large number of people. And it will drive a lot of business that was undertaken in one or more of the businesses at Basin View Center to an adjoining county, certainly not to Annapolis County. So there are many aspects to this. And I realize that decisions sometimes are tough. And in some ways, as I have intimated earlier, we've painted ourselves into our own corner because I think some of us wanted to be painted in that corner. I liked the warden's terminology at the beginning of this discussion this afternoon, where he indicated that it might not be a good thing to ask us to take a snap decision. Therefore, we should talk about whether we wait until Friday. And so that indicated that to some people, the decision taken today is a snap decision. And I wouldn't want to be accused of that. I'm the counselor for this district. I'm also a counselor of Annapolis County. And I've always been told to act in the best interests of the county. And the county is going to lose an awful lot if, number one, we don't determine between now and the 20th of May that there is any solution. And second, if we do away with the enterprises and public service organizations, such as the YMCA, that are in the building. There are folks who would like to see a new building, but not in the current location. And of course, that's been a hallmark of comments made by various members of the public since last August or so. And I would simply conclude to say that if there is a way we can give the 30-day notice and put off a vote until Friday, I would certainly like to see that path adopted. Thank you.
Any other comments? Deputy Warden, have you spoken twice? Just once? Okay, go ahead.
I would agree with Councillor Morrison's statement that if we could let them know today, but let's make our decision Friday, the world might change, might end by Friday, who knows? But so to give them all the time we can, we'll make our decision on Friday and hope for the best. Thank you.
Well, when you give notice, if you're talking about the notice to vacate, it has to be a notice to vacate. I guess we could rescind it on Friday if we wanted, I guess, but yeah, it has to be can't be a maybe. It's got to be a real thing. Councillor Longmire, did I see your hand up?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to ask the question if along the way, because I'm sure this crunch on insurance didn't just happen since October. Were there yearly inspections done that hinged on the renewal for insurance each year?
I'm going to
Your
say,
question is, were inspections done?
So that the insurance could be renewed each year?
I'm going to say the answer to that is probably no. They may have been done periodically, but I doubt very much they were done annually.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm hearing, I guess I'm hearing some people suggest that we could give notice today, but still have a meeting on Friday to determine if we wanted to rescind the notice. I hadn't thought about that.
Motion.
Anyway, the motion on the floor is to put this over until Friday. And unless somebody wants to amend that, that's the motion on the floor. So I guess I don't see any further hands up or anybody, so
Can I have some clarification?
clarification, yes.
Thank you. So where we're standing right now, we're going to meet on Friday to make our decision on whether the building is closed.
The motion
But
on
there
the
hasn't
floor, the motion
there
on the
hasn't
floor
been a-
would have us not make any decision today. It would put everything over until Friday.
Other than today, do we need a motion to send them to notify them today?
If the
About-
motion on the floor passes, then we don't give notice today. If the motion
Then I would
on
make
the
an
floor is to do everything on Friday.
I would
Now,
make an amendment to that motion.
If you want to make an amendment, go ahead.
The amendment to that motion would be that we contact the leasers today, notice, but we actually make them the decision on Basin View Friday.
To give a 30-day notice to the tenants, is that what
As
you
of
mean?
today.
Is there a seconder to that? Councillor Barto seconds that. So discussion on the amendment. The amendment is to give the notice today, but still have the meeting on Friday. Any further discussion on the amendment? Councillor Barto?
Just clarification, there's been, on the insurance matter, it's been stepping ahead to give us another 30 days. Seeing as how we're that close on, the 30-day notice, just wonder if we could ask for just an extension till the end of the month instead of the 18th. And then we're going to be covered with insurance one way or the other. That might be a fair question to the insurance company.
Well, we can, but we can't do it in any time frame to change what we're doing in the next 24 hours or this week, because they may not get back to us, I wouldn't think. But if we decide that a 30-day notice given today, if we decide on Friday, if the amendment passes, that we're going to let it stand, then we could still go and ask for an extension if we want to.
Just to be fair to our tenants.
Be fair to the tenants, we could. I don't know what the chances of that would be.
Don't know if you don't ask.
Yeah, Councillor Redden?
Well, it strikes me that this amendment is not exactly related to the initial motion, because the first motion is to not make a decision today, but we're amending the motion to make a decision today. So that we may be better off doing this as two separate motions, lay the initial motion on the table, pass the motion for notice, then have a motion to reconsider things on Friday. Like the whole thing is kind of a mess, because if we're making an amendment to a motion to make our decision Friday, but we're saying we're going to do something today, and then we've got a meeting on Friday that isn't really doing anything because we've already made a decision.
Well, I don't think I agree with you. I think that the motion on the floor is to make our decision on Friday. The amendment is to give the notice today and then have the meeting on Friday to make a final decision. I guess we could rescind the notice that we give today. So I don't see it contradictory myself.
Okay.
Councillor LeBlanc?
Because of what you just finished saying, would it make a difference in the motion if you placed final decision on Friday and possibly get direction from our CAO if we can get that extension at the end of the month and get that information for Friday, and make a separate motion on putting out the 30-day, just so that these folks need to be prepared to what's coming down. They need to know. No matter how you look at it, everybody needs to know that this is a real possibility that it's going to happen. But final, the word final is not in the motion, will be done Friday. And then
Yeah, we're starting to have amendments on amendments here, and I think
no, I'm
that's
not. That was just a question. If it
Okay.
would make a difference.
May I read the motions?
Go ahead.
I'll read the original motion and the amendment. Moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Deputy Warden Gunn, that a special meeting of council be held on Friday, May 21st, in order to make any decision regarding Basin View. Deputy Warden Gunn moved, seconded by Councillor Barto, to amend the motion to add and contact the lessors today to give 30-day notice today. Have I captured those properly?
Well, you have captured them properly, but I don't know if you've captured the intent.
Okay, I don't capture intent, I capture word.
Exactly, but I think that the thrust of the amendment is that we give notice today, 30-day notice to the tenants, and to echo Councillor LeBlanc's comment that Friday we'll make a final decision as to what we're doing with respect to this. And I see Councillor Morrison nodding, and I think that I see Deputy Warden Gunn, that's consistent with your amendment. He's saying it is. So Madam Clerk, what can we do to just clarify this?
I have no idea. That's what I have. If I can read it again and people can fix it.
Well, how do we fix it?
Well, if I didn't capture the motion as.
I think you did. I think you did. I think, we've had a good discussion. I think we know where we've landed. I really hope we don't get caught up with technicalities.
I don't know what you're trying to do other than what was stated, I guess.
Well, I think the first motion said any decision with respect to Basin View. We are making a temporary decision on Basin View today by way of the amendment to give notice today. So I think that's a technicality that I don't really want to withdraw the motions and go through the whole thing again. Maybe we could. I think maybe I'm just going to express the motion the way I understand it and move ahead.
If you start the amendment with the word "but," it can negate some of that.
Okay, let's try that. There, would you read it out? Put the word "but" in there. How it would sound?
So this is how it would look with the amendment added in there. That a special meeting of council be held on Friday, May 21st, in order to make any decision regarding Basin View, but contact the lessors today to give 30-day notice today.
Okay, I can live with that. Yeah, So I see agreement in the screens. So I think I'm prepared to call for vote on the amendment. The amendment that starts with the word but. Councillor Prout?
Just sort of a point of a clarification for myself and perhaps others. Should we do this now or after we've heard from Ms. Spur and discussed the letter from, she's been from the YMCA. Those are other facets of this whole discussion, or do you want to do this first?
Yeah, I intended to have any comment with respect to those included in this discussion, and what I intended to do, since nobody has raised those specifically, is just do the formality of receiving those for information so that they've been dealt with. But if you have any comments with respect to Ms. Spur's letter or the letter from the Y, you have an opportunity to raise it now on the vote on the amendment, or you'll have an opportunity to raise it when we vote on the main motion.
Okay, I was just thinking, Ms. Spur has been very patient with, she may wish to comment.
No, she won't be commenting.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'll call for a vote on the amendment. Madam Clerk, if you could read after the word but.
Contact the lessors today to give 30-day notice today.
And who is the seconder?
It was moved by Deputy Warden Gunn and seconded by Councillor Barto.
I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. So I'll now, everybody will still count if you've spoken twice, you've had your time, but if anybody else wishes to use their second or first comment with respect to the main motion, I'm happy to hear you. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Madam Clerk, would you read the full motion out as amended?
It was moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Deputy Warden Gunn, that a special meeting of council be held on Friday, May 21st, in order to make any decision regarding Basin View, but contact the lessors today to give 30-day notice today.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you for that. Madam Clerk, we'll come back to the scheduling of the meeting in a minute. I'd like to now just deal with, could we have a motion to receive the letter from Ms. Spur for information?
So moved.
Moved by the
Move to
Deputy Warden.
receive for information, the letter. from
Receive for
Ms. Spur.
information. Councillor Longmire seconds. Is there any further discussion with respect to that? Councillor Redden?
I just wanted to give a little background to Ms. Spur. She was reluctant to send a letter with her P engineer, or professional engineer designation on it. She wanted it as much as a resident as anything, but she is a professional engineer in the province of Ontario. And she spent more than 10 years doing exactly these types of assessment to the, I have to get this right, Canadian Center for Arts, or Canadian Arts Center. I think I got that right. Going over the various technical systems of that building and maintaining and making annual reports on how that building should be maintained. I wanted to add this just because I've found her commentary over the last months to be very helpful in understanding these reports. And I think she's done quite a service to us to give us such a nice letter outlining the contradictions between them. And that's all.
Councillor Morrison, did you want to make a comment?
Yes, please. And I would like to thank Ms. Spur for her professional comments. As I indicated in an email to a couple of folks, I'm just a simple artsman, and a lot of it went by me. I'm just wondering what the staff did with this letter when it was received. Was it examined?
When it was received, Mr. Catino was the CAO, I believe, but I'm looking, and I know Mr. McGinnis no doubt read it, and he's not here, unfortunately. But if any of the other staff wish to respond to Councillor Morrison's inquiry, I don't see any response.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other comments? Deputy Warden Gunn?
Thank you. This is a great piece of paper. It was a great comparison, great analysis of the Basin View Center. I very much appreciate it. It's too bad we didn't have it maybe a year ago. But perhaps it'll be a good paper for the prospective, buyers or purchasers of that building. It'll be a good comparison for them. Thank you.
There's a motion to receive for information the letter from Ms. Spur. I don't see any other comments, so I'll call for the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. And there's the letter from the YMCA. Is there a motion to receive that for information? The Deputy Warden moves, seconded by Councillor Longmire. Is there any discussion with respect to that letter that we haven't already covered? No?
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, Councillor Longmire, yes.
Thank you. I just reading, there have been many occurrences over the past few years where the county has not upheld its requirements to provide facilities up to the standard expressed in the contract. I'm wondering what that contract might have looked like, and do we have an obligation to provide them with any and all of the reports that came in as different as they might be? Do we have an obligation to meet with them before this 30-day notice is actually upheld?
There are a number, I have a copy of the contract right here. It's fairly lengthy. We have sent it to our lawyers, and I think that if we require legal advice for the interpretation of the contract, it may respond to your questions. Councillor Hudson? You're muted, Councillor Hudson.
Yeah, it was just occurring to me, should we give the Y some notice as we are today as well?
I took it that the motion today included the Y.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for clarifying that. Anything else with the letter from the YMCA, Councillor Barto?
Just not sure if it's time to talk about it, but if there's getting into pointing fingers and negotiations, they got to look at the whole package. I think the county has been pretty generous keeping the Y open and supporting and paying extra money for the operations of that facility. In the original contract, the Y itself was supposed to look after all of their own costs. And if I'm correct, what I'm hearing is that the county has put a lot more money into it annually, and which there was supposed to be some kind of if they didn't fulfill their contractual agreements as far as operational expenses, that they were supposed to leave the facility within a 3-month period anyway. So there's a lot of things to consider when we're talking about the ongoing thing. I think it'd be a sad day if we lose it, but it looks like we'll know on Friday what the decisions are. But I think if it comes down to talking to people, we don't want to go into it with blinders on. We need to look at it from both sides of the equation, and when we're doing any negotiating. Thank you.
Councillor LeBlanc?
Yes, thank you. My concern is at the top of the page where it says request for mediation. Are we supposed to respond to that?
Yes, we will respond to that. We'll take legal advice on that. There is a clause in the contract that if there's a dispute, there should be a meeting between the CAOs, which did take place, and there should then mediation and arbitration, but it's a long contract and there are other provisions in the contract. As Councillor Bartow said, the contract has to be interpreted as a whole. So we will definitely respond. They've sent us this letter and we do need to respond. Yes, go ahead.
So therefore, with what you just said, we cannot, can we make a motion for just taking it in for information? Maybe the motion should read more than that. That we will be responding. I'm just asking the question.
No, I think receiving for information is fine, and we will be, I can tell you that Mr. Dick will respond to the why. It may simply just be a letter. Thank you, we have your letter. We're taking legal advice and we'll get back to you. Something like that. I don't see any others. There's a motion on the floor to receive the letter from the Y for information. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. The other matter that we moved to this part of the agenda was whether to spend $58,000 on the harness for the roof. And why don't we just ask for a motion to put that on till Friday's meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Yeah.
I move.
Moved by Deputy Warden, seconded by Councillor Bartow, that the issue with respect to the roof harness be moved to the Friday meeting. Is there any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. So Madam Clerk, what can we do about what the timing of a meeting on Friday?
What time would you like to have the meeting on Friday? By Zoom, I'm assuming, since we are still
Right.
in the lockdown. You tell me what time you want to have it and I will send that notice out.
Well, I'd say 9:30, but I'm happy to, that's just me. And I'm a Democrat. So whoever wants to have it at some other time, raise your hand. Councillor Prout.
Thank you. Speaking of Hail Marys and hoping for miracles and so on, what about 10:30? Is there anything that might develop that morning? Can we keep our keeping happy thoughts here that maybe
I'm just thinking that it may be another fairly lengthy discussion, and I just as soon start and have the morning because I'd rather not have to go through lunch.
want to split the difference, go for 10?
I'd go for 10 if you want. I don't care.
Just a thought, I don't know.
I got Deputy Warden.
Thank you. I am on the whole different end of the spectrum. I'd like to have like 9 or 9:30 at the latest, as you said, because I want to get on with my day. I want to make use of Friday besides talking about the Basin Conference. Thank you.
I think Councillor Longmire, you seem to be agreeing. Okay, you know what I'm going to do on this very important
Yes,
issue? I'll have a vote of hands and we'll go 9, 9:30, 10. You want to do that? Fair enough. We don't need motions. We'll just, so I'm going to go everybody for 9 o'clock. Hold up your hand, 9:30, hold up your hand, and 10 o'clock. Councillor Sheridan, did you want to say something first?
I was just going to say, if something were to come up, you would notify us, or the CAO would notify us during our meeting if something else were to pop up. So we don't have to worry about delaying the meeting. It will come to our attention if something pops up.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Okay, hands up if you'd like to have the Friday meeting at 9 o'clock. Hands up. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is your hand up, Councillor LeBlanc?
Nope.
No. But I think I've got 6, so let's do it again. Hands up.
7, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. 7. I didn't see Councillor Longmire. She's down in the corner of my screen here.
Do it again.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7. So it'll be 9 o'clock. by Zoom on Friday. And Madam Clerk, will you send out a notice?
I really will.
Okay.
Really.
Is there anything else on the agenda for today, Council?
No.
If not, I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilor LeBlanc, seconded by Councilor Sheridan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.